How are you feeling? You got John Riggs here, taking you all the way back to 1982, and here are just some of the arcade games you were playing back in the day. I loved this game called Amadar. To be completely honest, I mostly played this on the Atari 2600, but happy to see this in the arcade. Konami did this game. It played a lot like Kicks, but this was before I even heard of Kicks when I played this game. You basically just kind of paint around the edges to create the boxes, and then those boxes fill in, and then that's how you kind of complete, that's how you get your points, and then when you fill in all the boxes, that's how you complete the stage. It's interesting because you start as like an ape, and then the following stage is you're a paint roller, which is kind of weird. Now, you don't necessarily have a jump, but you have a button that makes everyone else jump. I thought that was interesting. Like, you don't necessarily jump, but everyone else jumps, and that's how you can kind of like go underneath the people. You can only do it so many times though. To just kind of avoid the other people and keep on filling in these stages, has a fun little bonus stage between stages, and again, you just kind of go from there. The game's called Amadar. I had a lot of fun with this one. I don't know anyone else who loves PacMan as much as I do. I wish we would have seen a home console port of PacMan, even on like the early Famicom or something. But none of the systems I had a version of PacMan. Well, you play the criminal. You play the robber, avoiding the sheriff, the warden, whoever the other guy is. You can pick up these monies. There's, you know, kind of places to explore, mazes to explore. This was during a time when a lot of games looked like this. Kind of like Spelunker a little bit, right? But man, I love this game. And I didn't even know how to get very far in this game. I didn't even know what to do in this game. I just remember enjoyed playing it a lot. And they had some speech samples in there too, which was kind of fun. Bubbles was a psychedelic trip of a game. It just looked cool. Now you're this giant sink here, and you're this bubble, and the more you pick up, the bigger your bubble gets. You gotta avoid the sharp things to avoid popping you as the bubble, of course. And when you go to the next stage, and it has more and more stuff that you gotta clean up and scrub up and all that too. What a fun idea. Everybody wash your hands, lather up, nice and clean. Around this time is when Burger Time came out. Oh boy, still one of the standards for arcade games. Love me some Burger Time. It took me forever to realize that if you drop an item with an enemy on it, it goes down multiple platforms. I used to just do it like one by one, avoiding all the enemies, but you're supposed to kind of encourage them to get close to you so you can drop them down a bunch all at once and really rack up the points and move on to the stages quicker. Still love me some Burger Time. I still play it today. Bump and Jump was a game I couldn't get enough of. I remember playing this specifically at the Burger Ranch across the street from YBC in Yakima. Now that Burger Ranch no longer is there, but this game still, the memory holds true and strong to me. I love the fact that you had a car that could jump. What an amazing concept. What an amazing idea. A jumping car? How fun. Well, that was half the strategy too. Yeah, you can bump the other cars into the wall and make them explode and all that, but then you also have to jump too. Little added bonus for you. Love this game. I will never get sick of playing Dig Dug. Dig Dug was one of the first games I remember playing that I thought I was pretty good at, so much so that I remember at the YMCA, my mom kind of had told my brother to take me with him to the YMCA because they had like an after-school program. And I remember playing Dig Dug for a long time, enough that like somebody cleared their throat, I turned around to see who it was, and there was a group of people watching me play Dig Dug. I'm like, really? Me? 5-year-old me playing Dig Dug? Well, you know. I mean, look at Twitch now. Now it's full of a bunch of people watching other people play video games, but yeah, I love me some Dig Dug. Still do today. Domino Man, I couldn't get enough of Domino Man either. What a fun game this was. I loved this artistic style of game. You know, like Tapper, Domino Man, Timber was another one in there that we can talk about in a future video. I remember playing this at Mr. C's behind Talcott's in Yakima. Domino Man, you have to create this domino path, and you do have a domino that you can kind of like whack other enemies or shoo them out of the way or whatever. And the idea is once you set up the dominoes, you can either move to the next stage to create a huge domino chain, or just push them over what you have to earn the points quickly. But if you do the longer chains, then you can push over a bunch of dominoes all at once, depending on how good you are. Yeah, these enemies just keep getting in your way and keep knocking over dominoes, so you have to like keep setting them up and stuff like that too. Love, love, love Domino Man. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember when Donkey Kong Jr. was a new game. Mario is the bad guy? Interesting. Well, this is still a super fun game. Great breakfast cereal too. Yeah, it's still fun to see. It's Donkey Kong Jr. came out in 1982. You ever play this game called Eyes? Yeah, you play this giant eyeball, shooting the other giant eyeballs. This game is called Eyes, and it's kind of creepy. Food Fight was another one of my favorites. I just loved how the giant head eats the ice cream cone. It's called Food Fight because you have to pick up these piles of food and throw them at the other cooks and chefs and stuff like that to get to the ice cream. They just recently released this as a mini arcade from New Wave Toys, right? But it was, again, one of my favorites. I played this a lot on the 7800. Joust, don't need to talk too much about Joust. Love me some Joust. Moon Patrol, same thing too. Moon Patrol was one of the first games I remember playing that had 2 buttons. There was a jump button and a fire button. 2 buttons? That's so confusing. What am I going to do with 2 buttons? Well, you remember games like Asteroids and Space Invaders, or not Space Invaders, what's that other one? Missile Command, that are just a whole bunch of buttons. But I was like, I just need a joystick and 1 button. This one had 2 buttons. Still Moon Patrol, still love it today. Mr. Do, I love me some Mr. Do. I wish they would release a Mr. Do compilation still that had Mr. Do, Mr. Do's Wild Ride, Mr. Do's Castle. There's another Mr. Do game in there somewhere too, like Run Mr. Do Run or something like that. Run Do Run, I don't remember. Do Run Run, maybe? I don't know. A little like Dig Dug, as you can clearly see, but you just have to collect all the cherries to move on to the next stage, and you do have a firing thing that kind of just, the ball just ricochets and bounces around and stuff, and maybe it'll hit an enemy, if not, it just comes back to you and you can try again. Mr. Do is a lot of fun. Love this one. Love the character, too. Wish he'd come back. Mr. Do for Smash, come on now. Oh my god, Pango. Classic Sega. One of the first Sega games I remember playing was this game, Pango. Loved it, loved it, loved it so much. You can shatter the ice or push the ice blocks to squish the enemies, and then it'll also show you, like the ice blocks will flash where there's more enemies, so you can destroy those and break them down before the enemies come up to, you know, alleviate the fact that when you kill an enemy, another one won't just respawn. You can kill all the spawning enemies first. And there's those 3 blocks, and you put them all together, it kind of freezes the stage and it does whatever. But love, love, love me some Pango. Still love it today. And other games along the way have taken score from this game to kind of create their own version. Nothing wrong with that. Puyon's another kind of fun one that has this weird kind of, you know, classic story. You're avoiding the wolves by shooting down the balloons. You have your arrow, you have your thing. If you don't shoot them down, they'll kind of start climbing up the ladder. They'll start chomping at you from those little stages behind you. Didn't happen in this playthrough, but just another classic fun, these high score getters, these quarter munchers that they had back in 1982 in the arcades. Popeye, another fantastic, fantastic game. This is the good Popeye. This is the arcade Popeye. This is the Popeye. I wish my son was here to say Popeye in the background. Love me some Popeye, one of my favorite arcade games of all time. Different stages have different things. The first one, you collect all the hearts and all that. You do have Bluto down there. Maybe it's Brutus in this version. I don't know. Watch out for the Sea Hag throwing bottles and all that. You can punch those out of the way. Although you can't punch Bluto out of the way. You do have to pick up the spinach first and then wipe them off on the screen and all that too. But once you collect all the hearts, you can move on to the next stage and you can go from there. A few stages to choose from. A lot of fun with Popeye. Q*bert was another favorite of mine. I loved playing Q*bert as much as I could. Just loved how it looked, loved the characters, loved everything about Q*bert. Still love it today. Robotron 2048, another just banger of a game. So many moving parts, so many moving things. It was just a psychedelic trip. If this game was in your arcade, you knew it was in your arcade in the back corner, but as soon as you stepped in, you could hear it from across the hall. So much happening with that. And twin stick shooter, the first time I was like, oh, there's two joysticks and one of them shoots and one of them moves? Gotta love that. Cinestar was kind of a cool game here. Cinestar featured a nightmare-inducing boss in this game that would speak to you and yell at you and stuff like that. You start off the game by just having this kind of overworld area. You're just shooting all the things around you, and these rocks that are there, you have to kind of like mine them for your Cinestar bombs or Cinnebombs, whatever you want to call them. Cinnebombs, actually, it sounds pretty good. It sounds pretty delicious. Because once you're ready and once the Cinestar is complete, it starts trying to attack you, and that's when you can drop your bombs on it and hopefully destroy it. And I've never been good at this game, but whenever I see one in the arcade, I usually pop in a quarter or two just to play it for old time's sake. I was a huge fan of Super PacMan because it was less about eating the dots and more about eating the keys, which would open the doors, which would lead to the apples, which would lead to defeating the stages. Or just turn into Super Pac-Man, and you can eat right through the walls. Now, in these early stages, you last a little bit longer. Later stages, you're not Super Pac-Man for too long, so you can't just, like, breeze through these stages. But that was half the fun for me, was just turning into Super Pac-Man, where you can also just go through the ghosts and all that, too. You can even, like, go in the ghost den for some reason, just because you could. Super Pac-Man was amazing. Zaxon as well from Sega came out in 1982. I'll be first to say it. Zaxon sucks. Now, I appreciate the ingenuity, I appreciate the effort, I appreciate the art, I appreciate the isometric view, but man alive, I'd rather just be a horizontal shooter or a vertical shooter, but this weird isometric angle shooter where I don't know which is what, and I know there's a shadow there, and I know there's like a height and, you know, a height meter and all that too. didn't help me at all. I suck at this game. That's why it sucks. But you don't suck because you watched it all the way to the end, and I thank you for watching. Check out some of these other videos as well as we look back at other consoles, including arcade games from other years, just for fun. Make sure you're subscribed. We'll do more videos on the way. Thank you. I can't wait to play more of these games sometime soon. I can't wait for you to experience these games for yourself, maybe for the first time.